Ozi וזמרת ים ויהי לישועה עוזי וזמרת ים ויהי לישועה עוזי וזמרת ים ויהי לישועה עוזי וזמרת ים ויהי Yeshua. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Welcome. This week is Shabbat Shirah, the week in which we read the Torah portion of the Shalach, when the Israelites sang their song of freedom as they passed through the Sea of Reeds on dry land. And the Haftarah is the song of Devorah, Deborah the prophetess. So this week is called Shabbat Shirah, and we will be singing extra songs tonight in accordance with that. It's also Shabbat Tzedek, the Friday night or the Shabbat that coordinates with Martin Luther King Day weekend. And so I will also be chanting a little bit of Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech set to Haftarah trope, thanks to Cantor Evan Marcus. So let's start with Shiru Chadash, a new song unto God, on page 648 in Mishkan Tefillah, if you've got the book. Shiru Adonai Kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God and we'll all sing along, all the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai Kol haaretz, Shiru Adonai Shir Chadash, Shir Chadash. And now we light our Shabbat candles with the blessing on page 120. On the Facebook, I'm trying to get the candles in view. You might just have to deal with not seeing it. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. On pages 138 and 139, we welcome in the Sabbath Bride with Olcha Dodi. We sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. I flipped too many pages. Oh, goodness. We sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And when we reach verse 9, I invite you, if you're able, to rise and face whatever direction that you feel the Sabbath Bride is coming in to greet you. Traditionally in our synagogue, that's the door, but maybe for you, it's a window, or it's still the screen, or it's your own beloved sitting next to you. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. 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 שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, ושמו תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו בניכם, כי היא מקור הברכה. מראש מקדם נעשו סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, כי באורך ומאורי, אורי, שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עטרת פעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה. תוך אמוני עם סגולה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Well, we don't quite have a minyan, but I think Simcha has enough ruach for 10 people by themselves with all those hearts and care reacts coming in. So we're going to go ahead and segue into our evening service fully with the Chatzi Kaddish on page 144. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברייך ירתה וימליך מלכותה. בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל. בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, מעלם ולעלמי עלמיה. יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי תקודשא בריחו. לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. On page 146, we turn to the call to worship. Please prepare yourself for the Baruch Hu. I don't know which way is east yet in my new setting. So I'm going to stay facing the screen for right now, but you might want to face east. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. On page 148, we have Ma'ariv Aravim. We're going to sing the Noah Aronson version. So the Hebrew is about halfway through the prayer. Borei Yom Valayla Golel Or Mipnei Choshech V'Choshech Mipnei Or. Roll into dark. Well, I always do those mixed up. Sorry. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Golel or mipnei choshech. Golel or mipnei choshech. Golel or mipnei choshech. V'choshech mipnei or. Roll into light. Roll into dark. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Borei Yom Valayla. Golel or mipnei choshech. Golel or mipnei choshech. V'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. We continue. Baruch atah Adonai HaMa'ariv Aravim, and on to Ahavat Olam on page 150. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta, Otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu b'shachtenu, U'kumenu nasiach bechukecha, V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha, U'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed, Ki hem chayenu, V'orech yameinu, Uvahem negei yomam v'layla, negei yomam v'layla, V'ahavatcha al tasir, Mimenu le'olamim, Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev amo Yisrael. On pages 152 and 153, we have the Shema, followed by the Ve'ahavta. I invite you to prepare yourself for these words of Torah. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha B'chol levavcha, u'b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol me'odecha, v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele, asher anochi metzavecha, hayom al levavecha, v'shinantam levanecha, v'dibarta bam, v'shivtecha b'beitecha, u'v'lechtecha b'derech, u'shachvecha u'kumecha, Ukshartam le'ot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha, u'v'yisharecha. L'ma'an tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai, v'hitem kedoshim l'Elokechem. Ani Adonai Elohechem, asher hotzeti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, V'yot lachem Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem. Amen. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Keep your finger on page 158. We're going to come back to Milchamocha, but first we're going to sing Miriam's song on page 646. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one which sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. As Miriam stood upon the shore and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought that she would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise and might. We just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Michamo Sabai Madonai, Michamo Hane Tabakote, Norate Hilo, Ose Fele, Norate Hilo, Ose Fele. Malechut Shechara Ubanecha, Bokei Ayam Nifnei Moshe uMiriam, Ze Eli Anu Ve'ameru, Ze Eli Anu Ve'ameru, Adonai Lo Le'olam Va'ed, Adonai Lo Le'olam Va'ed. It's hard to dance and sing at the same time. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. On page 160, we sing Hashkivenu. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu L'shalom, L'shalom. V'hamidenu Shomreinu L'chaim. Ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha, Ufros aleinu sukkah shlomecha. Amen. Shelter us beneath thy wings, O Adonai. Guard us from all harmful things, O Adonai. Keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Keep us Eli wrong from right, O Adonai. Amen. Amen, amen. Amen, amen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Haporei Sukkat Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, Shabbat vayinafash. Shabbat vayinafash. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat. La'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם לריתולם. And now we come to the central portion of our evening prayer. The Amidah is on page 164. It begins on page 164 and continues over the next few pages. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevig Ula Livnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Le'Ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Le'Hoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechayeh hakol berachamim rabim, sohomech noflim verofech olim, umatir asurim, umekayeh emunato mishenei afar, nichamocha ba'al gevurot, Amidah melech, melech me'mid u'mechayeh, u'matzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atah l'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom yehallelujah selah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. Simcha's last emoji looks like somebody's doing tachanun, which we wouldn't do on Shabbat or as Reform Jews. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but it's very spiritual. We continue on page 173 in the English. It's all English on 173. May these hours of rest and prayer, of rest and renewal, open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day. May all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. We turn to another one of our Shabbat Shirah songs. This one is not in the book. Oh, I need my tambourine. Whew. Standing at the sea, Michamocha, standing at the sea, Michamocha, standing at the sea, Michamocha, freedom's on our way. Singing and dancing, Michamocha, singing and dancing, Michamocha, singing and dancing, Michamocha, freedom's on our way. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way. They're coming up behind, Mi chamocha, they're coming up behind. Mi chamocha, they're coming up behind. Mi chamocha, freedom's on our way. Bound no more. Mi chamocha, bound no more. Mi chamocha, bound no more. Mi chamocha, freedom's on our way. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way. The sea sheep part, mi chamocha, the sea sheep part. Mi chamocha, the sea sheep part. Mi chamocha, freedom's on our way. Walking through the water, mi chamocha, walking through the water. Mi chamocha, walking through the water. Mi chamocha, freedom's on our way. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way. On the other side, mi chamocha, on the other side, mi chamocha, on the other side, mi chamocha, freedom's on our way. One God, mi chamocha, one God, mi chamocha, one God, mi chamocha, freedom's on our way. Freedom, 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 freedom's on our way. Back to the prayer book, page 175. You are with us in our prayer, our love and our doubt, and our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when fear clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us closer to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha b'yir'ah na'avod. And now for the classic, the pinnacle of Shabbat Shirah music from Chazaniot. There we go. Female, plural, cantors. Mariah Carey and Whitney Houston. Many nights we prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe. Somehow you will when you believe. In this time of fear, when prayer so often proves in vain, hope seems like the summer birds too swiftly flown away. Yet now I'm standing here, my heart so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill, hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will when you believe. Shirah l'Adonai ki ga'o ga'a. Shirah l'Adonai ki ga'o ga'a. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nehezar b'kodesh. Nachitza v'chavtecha amzu ga'alta. Nachitza v'chavtecha amzu ga'alta. Shirah, Shirah, Shirah. Shirah l'Adonai ki ga'o ga'a. Shirah l'Adonai ki ga'o ga'a. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha nehezar b'kodesh. Nachitza v'chavtecha amzu ga'alta. Nachitza v'chavtecha amzu ga'alta. Shirah, Shirah, Shirah. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. Somehow you will. You will when you believe. Amen. Page 177. When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars that you have set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us. You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, laying the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shemcha ulecha na'el lehodot. Page 178. Shalom al Yisrael amcha, tachim leolam. Shalom al Yisrael amcha, tachim leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon, v'chol hashalom. V'tov beinecha livarech et amcha Yisrael, b'chol eit u'kol sha'ah, b'shlomecha. Shalom al Yisrael amcha, tachim leolam. Shalom al Yisrael amcha, tachim Tasim Leolam. We take a moment now for silent prayer. You might use the words on pages 180 and 181 or the meditations of your own heart. Yehi Ratzon Imrefi Vehegyon Libi Lefanecha Adonai Tzori Adonai Tzori V'goali May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and redeemer. Now, we've done a lot of Shabbat Shirah songs. And now, for something for Shabbat Tzedek, the other piece of this special multitude of celebrations of this weekend. I say to you today, my friends, that in spite of the difficulties and the frustrations of the moment, I still have a dream. It is a dream, deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day the state of Alabama will be transformed into a situation where little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls and walk together as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, and the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith with which we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will one day be free. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last. And with that, we turn our thoughts now to those who are ill and in need of healing. We have on our Misha Berach list Mary Kennedy, Rosalind Cantu, Mike Haug, Lori Perry, Nick Joliot, Rhoda Wessler, Rhonda Butler, Ricky Grant, Shoshana Bat Abraham, Minna Dornfeld, Ira Dornfeld, Juliette Origi, Leslie White, Marilyn Frito, Anna Parias, Frank Lerner, John Solomon, Ann Cohen, Charlotte Birch, Anita Ash, Joseph Matter, Daryl Swan, Doris Hudson Trujillo, Susan Smith, Mary Lou Manzelli, Kevin Kossoff, Devin Kennedy, Herb Leventhal, Kai Bean, Gail O'Neill, Rachel Hawford, Bruce Berg, and Patty Bergeron. Anyone else who has a name they'd like to keep in mind for the prayer for healing, feel free to drop it in the chat. And we turn to the Misha Berach on page 371. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misha Berach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha La'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Shabbat Shalom. So as I've said, this week's Torah portion is Parashat Beshalach, in which the Israelites finally depart from their slave homes in Egypt. And although we've spent a lot of time tonight singing the song of the sea, just before that, the Parsha actually opens with the words, "Now, when Pharaoh let the people go, God did not lead them by way of the Philistines, although it was nearer. For God said, the people may have a change of heart when they see war and return to Egypt. So God led the people round about by way of the wilderness at the Sea of Reeds. Now the Israelites went up armed out of the land of Egypt." The word translated as armed there is chamushim, which JPS footnotes as meaning of Hebrew uncertain. The rabbis argued about the exact meaning of this word, both in its translation and in its subtext. Rashi alone offered 3 explanations, one of which being that chamushim does not actually mean armed at all, but rather draws on the root chamesh, or 5. To denote, as Rashi says, that only 1/5 of the Israelites came out of Egypt, the other 80% of the population having died during the 3 days of darkness due to their unworthiness of God's deliverance. By contrast, Midrash Tanhuma quotes Rabbi Joshua as saying the opposite. Yes, indeed, chamushim is related to that root of 5, but it means that 5 times the population of the Israelites left Egypt that day, as the mixed multitudes joined our ancestors in their liberation. I love that the same word can generate such confusion and leave room for so many different opinions. And of course, it is entirely possible for both of these to be true. If 4/5 of the population of the Israelites died in the 9th plague, then the number of the mixed multitudes would not have to be high at all to amount to 5 times the number of Israelites. But on their surface, the 2 midrashim seem to be total opposites, and they have nothing to do with the most common understanding of the verse, which is armed, and yet they are both valid. Now, given the context, I do believe that the translation of armed makes more sense than the play on the root word meaning 5. But what exactly were they armed with? If God is also afraid that the Israelites would turn back at the sight of war, if they were properly armed, shouldn't they be prepared for war? So Rashi suggests that it fulfills 2 meanings. He already gave the chamushim. Now, if it is armed, there are 2 possible layers to it. Simply, they were armed. So don't be confused by the end of the Parsha when the Israelites win by the sword over the Amalekites. You might think, well, they're slaves. Well, don't get it twisted. They left with weapons. Okay. On another level, however, Rashi also says there is the understanding that this verse communicates God's foresight in preparing the Israelites for their 40 years in the wilderness. Rashi says if God planned to bring the Israelites directly to the promised land or via a circuitous route through inhabited lands, the Israelites might not have needed to be armed with swords or provisions, as they would acquire what they need along the way from other peoples. But because God needed the Israelites to have their 40 years in the wilderness to learn to be a people unto themselves, God had to provide them with all they would need for those years when they left Egypt. And while Rashi skillfully brings both these understandings to that same word of armed, many of the other medieval commentaries lend their voice to one or the other. They say either the word armed communicates the readiness for war, or it communicates the readiness for 40 years in the desert. And still, one more voice addresses the question I posed above. If the Israelites were properly armed, shouldn't they be prepared for war? No, says Sforno. At the very outset of their exodus, they still feel too fragile a people, too inexperienced with their weapons, too newly freed to face the Egyptians in battle. Thus, though they are armed, God has reason to be worried about their response in the face of possible war, and they are certain that they will die when they see Pharaoh's army charging at them before the Sea of Reeds splits. However, by the time they encounter the Amalekites, though it seems quick by the Torah storytelling, it's in the same parsha, it clearly is enough time later that the Israelites feel ready to wield their weapons. Now, you all probably know I'm a bit of a peacenik. I'm not hugely in favor of the battle scenes in the Torah. I have trouble appreciating the necessity of the Israelites to wipe out everyone along their way into the promised land as they settle the land. So it's not that I bring this justification of the translation armed because I love what it says in itself. It's that these commentaries taken together teach the breadth and depth of how we read Torah. Hundreds of years worth of Jews looked at the same ancient words and each came up with their own read of it. And now it is our turn. So how do we read Chamushim? But more importantly, what are we armed with to engage with our peoplehood now? Are you eager for battle? Are you ready to venture out into the wilderness? Are you equipped with the knowledge and provisions you need to dive into the text and values of our ancestors? Has the divine spirit of the universe provided you with what you need to address the big questions of your lives today? This week is Shabbat Shirah and Shabbat Tzedek, and it's the Shabbat before Tu B'Shvat. There are so many current topics to think about this weekend. Are you thinking about songs of freedom? Are you thinking about justice and civil rights? Are you thinking about the environment? And sometimes all of those things do intersect. And are you thinking about those intersections? They could all lead each of us in as many directions as this one word, Chamushim, does in this week's Torah portion for our rabbis. So go, engage. Think about all those things. May we hear each other out. Think critically about what we hear and read, and may we interpret our sacred texts in the way that speaks to our deepest souls. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. And now we turn toward our concluding prayers with the Aleinu on page 586. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad. And now we turn our thoughts to those who are no longer with us in body, but remain with us in spirit. This week marks a yahrzeit for Herman Friedman, Harold Abrams, Joseph Sherman, Sidney Hallam, Blanche Levinson, and it is the first yahrzeit for Louis Aaron Honig. And we are still within the year of mourning for Jean Sullivan, Carolyn Rubel Magrum, David Nemero, Tom Lombard, Marion Finkel, Steve McGrew, Herbert Levy, Lynn Steffen, Gary Sullivan, Debbie Taylor Wright, Mark Anderson, Samuel Fallis, Elaine Skolnick, Phyllis Rosen, and Edith Herman. If anyone else has a name they'd like to say Kaddish for, feel free to put it in the chat. We turn to page 598, and mourners and those who wish to join them may rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chai echon u'b'yom echon u'b'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'b'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'almei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. 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 V'imru amen. Just a couple of announcements. Tomorrow at 7:30, there will be Havdalah streaming on Facebook and Instagram. Sunday morning, there is no religious school, but there is a Tu B'Shvat Seder at 6 o'clock. We encourage all religious school families and any community members to join us for that on Zoom. There is also our teen cleanup at Murumsko Watershed on Sunday afternoon. I know the weather has people all on edge. My Weather Channel app still says that it doesn't expect snow till evening, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I picked up the supplies today, gloves, garbage bags, pickers, so we don't have to get our hands all yucky. So if you would like, if you're feeling brave, come meet me at Veterans Park in Murumsko Watershed at 2:30 on Sunday. We'll pick up trash until 4 o'clock or until the snow starts or whatever comes first. Even if the snow does hold off, my Weather Channel app also says it's going to be 26 degrees though, so wear lots of layers. Hopefully we'll keep moving and we'll pick up lots of trash and we'll work up an inner warmth, but wear leggings under your pants, wear 3 coats. If our preschoolers can do it at Ganteva, you can all do it too, so just layer up. And then Monday is our environmental consortium on Zoom. Please register in advance. The Zoom link will not open the Zoom call on its own, so don't wait until 10:30 on Monday morning to click that link. If you plan on coming, register for the Zoom. Our 10:30 time slot is hearing from our Ganteva teacher, Sarah Maynard, teaching about planting seeds for the future and why outdoor education is important. And our 3:30, that's the next time. Yeah, our 3:30 time slot. No, I've gone too much time. Hold on. 1:30. Sorry, our 1:30 time slot is Galaxy Hornick, who will be teaching about environmental justice issues and why it should be on our Tikkun Olam agenda. So please do join us for those conversations on Monday. All right, that's all for now. There's more coming up next weekend. It's our ISJL virtual visit. Friday night is Family Shabbat. It will be on Zoom next week, starting at 7 p.m. Saturday night, there will be an adult program led by our ISJL program associate. So all of those things, it's just going to be lots of fun programming, even if we are not able to gather in person right now, and hopefully again soon we will. All right, our closing song today. Normally I do Kiddush and Motzi before closing song. It's so difficult. All right, we're going to do it. Okay, whew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Chaim? Or B'tei Avon? All right. So, as I've said, we sang a lot of songs about the Song of the Sea, the Torah portion for this week's parsha. Our closing song comes from the story of our Haftarah, the other important song of this week. This is Devorah song by Debbie Friedman. Arise, arise, Devorah, arise, arise, and sing a song. Arise, arise, Devorah, Uri, Dabari, Shir. Devorah the prophet was a judge in Israel. She sat beneath her palm tree on a hill. And people came from everywhere just to hear her judgment, honest and fair. Devorah the prophet, Devorah a mother in Israel. Arise, arise, Devorah, arise, arise, and sing a song. Arise, arise, Devorah, Uri, Dabari, Shir. Devorah the prophet was courageous, strong, and wise. Her people lived in peace for 40 years. The 12 tribes lived together as one for the first time since the world had begun. Devorah the prophet, Devorah a mother in Israel. Arise, arise, Devorah, arise, arise, and sing a song. Arise, arise, Devorah, Uri, Dabari, Shir. Arise, arise, Devorah, arise, arise, and sing a song. Arise, arise, Devorah, Uri, Dabari, Shir. Uri, Dabari, Shir. Uri, Dabari, Shir. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Have a great, restful weekend, and I will see you again soon.